Welcome to Andy D. Cole's podcast. Please like, share and subscribe.
Welcome to Andy D. Cole's podcast. Press like and subscribe.
Welcome to Andy Decodes. Sit back and enjoy as we dive deeper down into the rabbit hole and into the unknown.
Hello, welcome to today's show, where I'm joined by Kate HareGirl Ray. Thank you for joining.
You're welcome.
So we did have a quick chat before we started about a possible sighting that I had, but we'll go into that later on. So how did you end up coming to the genre of the Fae or elementals?
So it's something, in a nutshell. I can't remember a time in my life when I didn't believe, and I didn't have a sense that there was something other than ourselves. And fairies were a good coverall that I could sort of put everything into. My worlds collided later on. Last sort of 6 years, I've been on the ground as a paranormal investigator, and went into it with just thinking I was going to be investigating ghosts and normal hauntings, and the fairies rocked up in that mix. So what I'd always known, and then going into the paranormal, it really did collide for me over the last 6 years, which kind of compounded what I believed was true about the fairies.
Yeah. So what was that? What was the overall conclusion about them?
What's my sorry, could you say that you just glitched then a little bit?
All right. What's your overall conclusion about? Because you said it's what you believe there was, is what there was.
Mm-hmm.
So what did you come?
I think
what did you come to? Sorry.
that's okay. I think when you look at terminology, we think of fairies as winged beings, as winged creatures that sort of flit within and out our dimensional realm. And I always understood them to be other than that. That was just one aspect of fairy. I mean, the Isle of Man has a really good coverall that they use the word spook for meaning anything that's in the supernatural realm. So the conclusion is there's no conclusion. It can be as far as there are theories out there now where people are talking about is the Yeti and Sasquatch, are they in the Fae realm? You know, Dogman, Mothman, are they in the Fae realm as well? Because they have qualities that are very fairy. So it's the conclusion's not there, which is the exciting thing. You know, it's things that are separate from our plane and our reality.
Ah, right. So I've just started watching something on Netflix, and it's about fairies. I cannot remember the title of it. I only started watching it last night. And I was expecting. Have you seen Carnival Row, the one with Orlando Bloom?
Yeah.
It's on Amazon Prime. So I was expecting it to be a bit like that, but it's not. It's more like it's a bit Harry Potterish, where they're at a school, and they're learning the magic and how to. There's different types. You've got fire, earth, water, and air, and it's more Harry Potter rather than the carnival side to it. So, like you were saying, where you expect them to have wings and
Hmm.
all that, these don't. They just look like teenage kids. And it kind of threw me out a bit because I know a lot of
Yes.
stuff they say
Yes.
hidden in plain sight. So with these TV shows and movies and all that, is that what we're really looking at? Where we're looking for like the Tinkerbell type fairy, or like even goblins and stuff like that? Is it more human aspect?
I mean, there's that element as well. That there are theories about, shape shifting, where they can take on human form, where they can sustain themselves within this reality. It's interesting that you mentioned about the show talking about the elements, because that's another side to the fairies, where a lot of the time people will refer now to fairies as elementals, and what
Yeah,
they're referring to is the elements. And it is a real melting pot of ideas at the minute. We're at exciting times where people from the paranormal community, from the UFO community, from the cryptozoology community, are starting to say, is this all an ebb and flow of the same thing? Are these all sort of melting together and looking at the possibilities? It's quite an exciting time, really.
yeah. So have you ever looked into it that the Fae could be some type of alien,
Yes,
as in like
yes, that
you know,
is.
like the Greys or reptilians? Yeah,
Yes, definitely, definitely. I mean, when you look back at old fairy folklore, especially from Europe, and I'm not a folklorist at all. I know bits, obviously, for helping me in the work that I do and the research that I do. But when you look at that and you look at the encounters of people being abducted, and the
yeah,
crossovers in themes of abduction, and you look at how fairies were described during this time. I mean, the almond eyes is a big theme in
yeah,
fairy folklore, that fairies have these big black almond eyes. And so yeah, there's definitely that crossover, but there's also, that's that growing theory that it's about people's perception. So we will see things how we can accept them. So in the modern
yeah,
age, we can accept the concept of alien more easily and more readily than we can the concept of a fairy, because fairy is, something that children talk about, and not what
yeah,
adults discuss. It's not on our agenda as serious adults in the paranormal world. I often get met with, not hostility, but I often get with mild humorous curiosity, I think, with most people when I start discussing fairies in a paranormal sense. So,
yeah,
but like I say, it's definitely changing.
yeah, yeah. Because I thought that because it's like it's. I think it's just the word fairy. It's that the whole concept behind it. Because like when I started doing this and started the show and that, this
Hmm.
originally was called Codes of the Paranormal, but I never used to like the word paranormal, only because people, or not just people, well, yeah, people, um, class it as paranormal is ghost hunting, nothing else. It's nothing to do with Bigfoot, Dogman, UFOs, nothing like that. It's just
Yeah.
spirits and ghosts. And I've always wanted to find a better word, but there's just other than trying to trying to make something up. That's all you've got. So it's kind of like
Yeah.
that's it, and you kind of stuck with that. I suppose the stigma of it.
Hmm. Yeah, definitely. I
Yeah,
mean, I think I like to talk about these things on a broader context under the word Fortean, as in Charles
yeah,
Fort, because he for me he looked at it collectively, and under his name you can kind of bung everything and anything, can't you? From sort of
yeah,
stigmata and apparitions and poltergeist, fairies. Uh, Cryptids, the whole plethora goes under that. But you're right. The word paranormal, people just think, poltergeists, apparitions,
yeah,
demonics.
yeah,
Um, uh, but I've discovered over time that they have a massive interplay with each other. Um, And especially sort of for me, like I said, one of the biggest revelations was going into ghost hunting and coming
Yeah,
across more fairies within the ghost hunting that I was doing than I'd ever done before, you know.
yeah, yeah. But it's like I was saying to you off air, I'd gone to Shropshire because there'd been some big cat sightings on the old railway, and I seen what looked like some kind of bamboo figure flying away from me. But because I could only see the back of it, I couldn't tell what the face was like, if it had a face. I could see the wings and the arms, but it was moving that quick. It was gone before I could get any detail. And then as we walked further down, I said to you, I got that strange feeling, but it was pitch black. We couldn't see, we had torches, but we still couldn't make anything out. I got that feeling that I need to get out of there. And then we got back to my mate's house and we'd looked on Google Maps, and the point of where I got that you need to go home sort of thing was right at the start of that lake or reservoir on the left hand side. And that was when you started smiling because you knew what was going on. But like at the time,
Hmm.
it was just, is it because I'm somewhere I don't know and I'm putting all my trust in this other person and I don't know if they're 100% to be trusted, and I'm just like going along and doing that, or is this feeling that I'm getting now, is this from the high strangeness that's going on around us that's telling me don't go any further, it's you need to turn around and go back? So I took it as that, as it was my gut feeling, and I'm kind of glad I did, because I might not have been here to tell this story if I'd have ventured on.
Yeah. So do you feel that that fairy then warned you about and sort of added to that feeling of don't go any further?
Well, when I see what it was that I seen, that was flying in the direction that we was going. And like I say, I couldn't even tell you
Hmm.
the time from where I seen it to the point of I needed to stop and come back. It could have been half an hour, it could have been an hour and a half, I
Hmm.
don't know. But it was just, there was something there that I knew that I needed to go back. So whether what I'd seen earlier on was still there, and I knew it was there but just couldn't see it, because I know that's possible. And it's just like, well, say mind speak, but it's
Hmm.
that kind of stuff. It could have been that, thinking about it, but I can't say it was that, because I didn't, at that point, didn't say anything.
I mean, usually when people have these kind of encounters, they have them for a reason with purpose, and it's oftentimes they don't know what that reason or purpose is until after the fact of the encounter. But it usually is not just out of the blue for no reason.
No. No, like I said, the other guy that was with me, he didn't see it. And we had head torches on, hand torch, and we're both looking straight in front of us, because obviously we're walking on the old train line. And obviously, you got all the sleepers and big rubble and what have you. So you do have to watch your step as you're going. Plus, it had been raining, it's absolutely throwing
Hmm.
it down about 2 hours earlier. So yeah, weren't planning on falling
Can I
anywhere. Sorry, go on.
no? Can I ask how you felt about telling people afterwards? You know, telling people about your encounter. Is it something that you held back on?
I didn't see this. I didn't really speak to many people about it. It was, like I said, this was right at the beginning when I first started doing this, like probably not far into lockdown. It was November 2019. So we'd gone into lockdown in the March, and it was the first bit where you can
Mhm.
go out and do stuff. So it's like, right, I'm going. Literally the other side of the country. I didn't really think anything about it. I've spoke about it on here, but I've not. When I've done other podcasts for other people, I've not really gone. I've never. I don't think I've ever mentioned it. But I don't. It's not because I think it was a fairy. It's because I don't really know what it was, because I didn't get a full idea on what it was I was looking at. like I said to you before, I just thought, could it be a giant stick insect? I know they're not native to the UK, but we used to buy from school and from the biology labs and what have you. We used to keep them in little tanks. So I know you can get them in the UK, but I don't know how long they live, what temperatures are supposed to be in. I know, is it Argentina or somewhere in South America that they're native? So it is kind of a warm climate. But if they, don't know, can they adjust to climate, change of climate and survive? I don't know.
I wouldn't
I wouldn't have thought so, but
I wouldn't have thought in November a stick insect would be flitting around
no,
willy nilly. No.
no. But it's the more I talk about it and the more I think about it, it's like I think I'm just telling myself it was a stick insect because I can't put anything else to it other than a type of fairy. And it does sound really daft when you say it out loud. But
It
I
does, it
just don't
does.
know what.
And would it be easier for you to get your head around if you'd seen if you'd seen an apparition? Would that been
Yeah,
easier if you'd have seen a ghost walking up in front of you?
yeah. I
Mhm.
think that would because I know I've seen them before. I've
It
seen full bodied, I've seen translucent, different shades, different colours. So yeah. But then if I'd seen more than one, if I'd seen not on a regular basis, but over the years, I'd seen different ones in different parts, I think it could get my head around it more.
Mhm.
But also, it's one of those that at the time I was thinking, but are they real? Do they exist? Or is it one of those that people say they exist? Because I'm going back to, I can't remember the name of the kids that took the photos at the bottom of the garden. And then later on in few as he was getting older, he admitted that they cut them out of books and put them on sticks and stuck them in the ground to make them look real. So it's kind of I had that in my head as I was thinking about it.
Mhm.
So it's like, are they real? Are they not real? I'd love for everything to be real. I really would,
Me
but
too. Me too.
it would be
I,
great.
I mean,
But
with the Cottingley fairies, you're absolutely
that's
right.
it.
They did one. I can't remember whether which one of them died, but one of them had passed over, and the other one said that she wanted to confess, obviously when she was older, and
Yeah,
they always stated though that the very final photo was a genuine photo, and why they'd done it was because they were interacting regularly with these fairies down on this brook in Cottingley, and they
yeah,
wanted people to believe them because they were telling people that they were having these interactions. Now, in terms of taking photographs or getting that hard evidence, we know from ghost hunting that getting hard evidence is like hen's teeth. You know, you can get
oh yeah,
snippets of things, but getting that clear apparitional, photograph or video, or getting that class A EVP that's, completely undebunkable, is a gem. So I never blame the girls for doing that. Because it did they gave a lot of people a massive amount of sense of magic in their lives with those
yeah.
photos. And you know they fooled the likes of Conan Doyle company. So
Oh yeah,
yeah, I've got a lot of respect for him.
yeah. Well, the thing with that was as well, they said the photographs are real. There's nothing been doctored in the photographs. And technically, that's true. They are real photographs. It's just what was in the photograph wasn't necessarily real. So they kind of wasn't lying.
Yeah.
But then, yeah, so like I said, so I had that in the back of my mind. And then, but then you've got like Peter Pan and Tinkerbell, and you've got all the Disney movies with the fairies in them. And that, so it's portrayed as that. I think that's what it is. Whereas you don't see many Disney movies with greys or reptilians or poltergeists. Do you know what I mean? And things like that. So it's
Yeah.
more the fairy tale story of fairies than anything else, and I think that's kind of why I was a bit dubious about talking about it.
Mhm. I mean that's perfectly right. I mean Disney has a lot to answer for when it comes to the fairy folk. They are not particularly these nice doe-eyed sexualized creatures. That is, there's a whole range of different characters within the fae realm, and to be fair, fairy stories for children have only come about since Victorian times. They were folklore, so they were
Yeah,
telling tales within communities to at the very least entertain, but also to inform people of different things you do and things you don't do in nature. Were attributed to, don't go on a full moon to that particular woodland because you'll
yeah,
get whisked away by the fairies. And involving children, it was adult based, as well as children based. And then we see the turn of the industrial revolution, and suddenly these things grow wings, which they'd never really had before in fairy folklore.
yeah,
And they became very, very cute and a bit rude and a bit saucy. And then Disney took over and sort of took that one step further, which
yeah,
means when we talk about them as adults, that's the image that people get is Tinkerbell instantly. You
yeah,
say fairy, people think
yeah.
Tinkerbell. You know, it's yeah, they've got a lot to answer for, Disney. Don't get me started on Disney. Not
Well,
tonight.
no, sorry. Well, it was just that the old depiction of the what we know as fairies, and I think that was the only way really that I could explain it. But yeah. So like I said, I've been watching this thing on Netflix. Still cannot remember the name of it. I'll have a look in the break. And one of the girls, she's been living in the human world, and they've got some sort of dome shield covering this school. So
Mhm.
they can go through, but then she found out that her parents aren't her parents, and she thinks she's a changeling. That's what she got told. So can you talk about what changelings are for those who don't know, please?
Yeah, I mean, very, very sadly, on a psychological level and on a very sort of earthly plane level, changeling was often used to refer to children who were born with disabilities and severe disabilities.
Yeah,
And it was a way of parents explaining anomalies with their children from birth. From a folklore point of view, they are said to be babies that have been swapped, um, either by a fairy baby, or even I think there's a tale. I've got a tale in the back of my mind from folklore where babies were swapped for a lump of wood, that were
oh,
taken as and seen as a baby by the parents and whisked away to fairyland. Now there's all kinds of sort of grim connotations with that of why fairies would want human babies. I know that the fairies very much revered human women for midwifery, so would often employ a human female to help them go through the birthing process. There is so much that we have lost within our lexicon, within our language, of understanding these things and understanding what other people back then would have decoded from it, if you like. There's all kinds of
yeah.
notions in there that we don't understand in sort of in modern society. So yeah, changelings were basically swapped babies from birth, and the fairies would come in the middle of the night and usually either whisk them up a chimney, or take them out a window and then replace them. They were always replaced with
Yeah.
either a repulsive fairy baby or a lump of wood, or whatever they wanted to sort of replace them with.
No, I didn't know about the lump of wood thing. That's a
Yeah.
bit mean, but it's all horrible. But either way, but did they ever change them back, or was once he'd been changed, and that's it?
I think it was a general theme that once they'd been changed, that was it. And like I say, on a psychological level, that was an explanation for the parents to tell the rest of the community why their child was different, and maybe it safeguarded babies with disabilities, because
Yeah.
people would stay away from them, and they wouldn't badmouth them, because to say ill things to fairies is a massive no-no. You don't ever speak ill of the fae for
No.
for fear of
No.
the retribution. So, off the top of my head, I can't. I like I say, I'm not a folklorist. It's something that's on periphery of research, but um,
Yeah.
I can't think off the top of my head ever them being changed back or sort of coming back.
Yeah. No, because I first heard about that on a podcast that I listened to, and it was like 2, 3 years ago, so I cannot remember the answer to it either. So I was hoping hoping you'd be able to tell me, but it doesn't matter. So we'll find out eventually. Um, so
Yeah.
I know like you say you do the paranormal stuff, but I have asked if we can stick to the fairy side as much as we can. What with so do you take people's accounts of their encounter? Do you take notes of other people's accounts and their encounters?
Yes, definitely. I mean, I on and off have been working really closely with Professor Simon Young, who is a folklorist at a university in Italy, and I'm
Yeah.
part of the Fairy Investigation Society, and I've had the pleasure of writing for Simon on a couple of his books, not the ones about encounters. I recently wrote an essay for one of his books about the Woollerton gnomes. But encounters wise, Simon has done this massive body of work, which is carrying on a tradition within the Fairy Investigation Society. I mean, the Fairy Investigation Society has been going since 1928. It's a long
Wow.
established society, with academics and believers and what have you. And it was Marjorie T. Johnson who first started putting together a body of modern encounters, of people that people were having, and that kind
Yeah.
of the society disbanded a little bit over the years, and Simon bought it back and renewed it, and he is currently on his third census. So he bought out a census, I think it was 2017, where he asked for people globally to submit their fairy experiences. I've actually got, I can shamelessly plug it for him. So the census
That's
2 has
fine.
just come out in 3 volumes. Massive,
Yeah.
massive body of work. I mean, it's huge body of work,
Wow.
and again, that's people around the world submitting their experiences. He's also doing the census 3, which is going to be coming up for submission. So if anybody like yourself has had an encounter, it can be anonymous. And it's just
Yeah.
filling in a very brief form about your experience. But what this does, I mean, I talk to people when I'm out ghost hunting because people know me for that side of things, and I also
Yeah.
podcast and get people on talking about their experiences. But what this body of work's done is it's opened up the word fairy on a grander scale, and people are now saying what I didn't know was a fairy encounter. I now, because it's a lot broader, know that it is. So you were
Yeah.
saying, we were chatting before about you had an experience after the fairy incident where you were having a DVP, a direct voice phenomena, um, that was
Yeah.
disembodied, and now
Yeah.
now people are actually registering DVPs like that, not as ghosts, but as fairy, which has been an interesting shift. And the more people that I talk to about it, the more you see massive correlations between particularly ghosts and spirits, where people have said
Yeah.
in the past, I had a ghostly experience. They will now say, I'm not quite sure, Kate, is this fairy? And they'll talk
Yeah.
through. And I do love that. I do love chatting with people about their experiences.
Yeah. Well, when funny you should say that. So when I had that DVP, I didn't even picture it being a ghost or a spirit. I, I,
Hmm.
I didn't. That was straight away. It wasn't. Do you like your mind's eye? It. I was trying to like picture just a bloke stood there on his mobile phone. That's what I was trying to picture, and I'm looking round because there's like trees everywhere, and I was getting nothing. I'm like, I don't know what it is. I know it's not a ghost. I know it's not a spirit because it was that chattering. The da 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 da.
Mm.
Then it'd stop a few seconds, then it'd start again, and it was like that, and it lasted. We both heard that as well, and that lasted for
Mm.
probably about a minute and a half.
I mean, that kind of thing.
So
My co-host on the podcast that we do, he had a similar experience on Glastonbury Tor not long ago,
yeah,
where he was sat on top of Glastonbury Tor. I think it was about 11 o'clock at night. There was nobody around. He heard a conversation between a man and two women, and because it was dark, he decided to stand up to make himself known so he didn't shock them.
yeah,
And there was nobody there, absolutely nobody there. And so we chatted that through and said, is that ghostly, is that fairy? And the other aspect that we chatted through is that a time slip, which is another
yeah,
theme that comes into the fairy and into the ghost. Is that time slip, is it somebody who's been there, left an imprint? Is it somebody, is it glitching? Are we having some kind of glitch go off, where you're seeing something in the future or something from the past going off? But I would put that under fairy, only because for me it's a coverall of anything
yeah,
inexplicable that we can't kind of put in boxes anywhere else. So for me, that's what the word means and conjures up.
yeah. Cool, thank you. I'm just going to bring the co-host on. So
Yep.
this is Nicole. Is that okay?
Hey.
Yep.
Hi, Nicole.
Ooh, my voice squeaked. Hi, nice to meet you. Can you hear me?
Hi.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay,
Oh, good.
perfect.
Yeah. Yeah. So someone's just put in the chat, when I can find it, look up the real story on Tooth Fairy. I'm
I don't think
guessing
I
it's
want
not going
to.
to be a good thing. Do you know anything on that,
I
Kate?
mean, I know that I only in the fact that I know that there has been modern horror movies, including the Tooth Fairy. I mean, like I say,
Yeah.
I'm not a folklorist, and it's not something that springs to mind that I've kind of gone down the road of. But I would say that removing the bones of children and taking them away is pretty horrific as a theme on
Pretty
its own.
grim. Yeah.
Um, but I can imagine it. Yeah, I can imagine its origins not being particularly nice.
No,
Oh.
no. I don't think is it the one with the rock where he plays the Tooth Fairy? I don't think they're on about that one either.
No, isn't there like a really scary one about the tooth fairy where it's like a scary looking guy with the tongs?
No, I've not seen that one. I'll give it a
Yeah,
miss.
that's more like it.
Yeah. Nicole, have you got any questions?
Oh, I have a question for you. Were you thinking of the Winx show? WYNX with the fairies on Netflix?
Oh, could be. It's like it's a school and it's in
Yeah.
a protected dome, and they've got the burned, or the unburnt. The
I know I
lights.
haven't seen it. I just saw it and it's based off of like an older kids series that was a cartoon. But now they
Oh
made it
yeah,
like all edgy and everything.
this definitely isn't for kids.
No. No, I don't think
No.
the new one is.
Yeah, I think it is that. Yeah, it sounds familiar.
Okay, I was listening on my way home.
All right, cool. Right, we have got some questions for you, Kate, in the chat. I'll do the first one. So this is from Sober Carper.
Yeah.
It's got, hi Kate, I heard the account of the Fae trying to steal a guy's shadow. Have you heard of any similar of this? Or is it a one-off?
That's what Oh, that's one of my favourite stories. That's I think you're referring. Hello, by the way, because the Sober Carper is one of my followers. So thank you for jumping over and coming
Ah,
on. So that's one of my favourite stories. So I heard it on the Fairy Faith, which is a Brian Froud sort of documentary movie. And it's a
yeah,
lovely, lovely story. It's this really very normal, average guy who had gone up. I can't remember whether it was the Peak District or the Lake District. And lovely summer's day, he decided to sit on the side of the road. I think he was having a sandwich or something, sort of daydreaming away, and he looked down at his feet, and where his shadow was in front of him, there were two gnome pixie-like creatures. And this is in a nutshell. And I think the female one
yeah,
had a pair of scissors and proceeded to start cutting around his shadow. And then they took the bottom of the shadow and started rolling it up. And that's when he kind of snapped out of it. I have often seriously wondered what on earth they were going to do with his shadow, because we know on a
yeah,
magical
yeah,
level that our shadow self, is a very powerful thing. And were they stealing it for sort of magical purposes? It really does. It fascinates me, that story does. Haven't heard
yeah,
of any other. Genuinely haven't heard of any other, even because I've been through the first fairy census in quite a lot of detail. There's
yeah,
been no mention of shadows in there, no mention of connection. I haven't been through the second census yet, and the same with accounts that other people, like a very good friend of mine, Jo Hickey Hall, she's got a very good YouTube
yeah,
um, where she talks to people about encounters. So no, I haven't
yeah,
come across any others. And if anybody else knows any stories about fairies stealing shadows, I'd love to find out. Great question, though.
yeah, yeah. Well, is a couple of things from that. So it was Sober Carper that passed your name forward to me. There's him and nickname. So Joe said we do the members meet up each month.
Oh, bless you.
So yeah, and
Mhm.
Sober is one of the guys that we comes out investigating with me when more so when we go to Cannock Chase. So we've been there, I think, 3 times so
Oh,
far
that's
this
such a
year.
small world story. I love that.
Yeah, yeah.
Wow.
But
I tell you what, if
Joey,
you ever go up there and you go on, sorry.
sorry. No, no, it's okay. Go on.
I was going to say, if you ever want, if you ever don't mind me tagging along, that's definitely one place that I want to go up and have a snoop around. Cannock Chase.
Yeah. Well, we are going to be going in a couple of months once we get to springtime. So not going yet. I don't even want to go out to work, so I'm not going traipsing through Forest in this weather. Yeah, we'll sort something out after the show and sort details and that. But yeah, no, definitely. No, that'd be great. Yeah, but I was just going to
Brilliant.
say, Joey Kyo was on a couple of months ago, and she was telling us some of the accounts and that, and she spoke about one that
Ah,
she'd had
okay.
when she used to share a bedroom with her sister, and there's like, I don't want to go too far into it because after she'd told me this story, she asked me could we take it out of the podcast. So you probably know the story that I'm talking about anyway, if you're friends with her.
Mhm.
Yeah. So I thought that was really
Mhm.
fascinating.
Yeah.
But that with the two gnome-like creatures with the scissors cutting the shadow off, I remember listening to that on a podcast. I cannot remember what podcast it was. And straight away, same again, I just thought Peter
Mhm.
Pan. That was the first thing I thought.
It gives very
But
Peter Pan vibes.
yeah. But then the people that were hosting the podcast, they were saying, are they trying to take the shadow? Is the shadow your visible soul? And that's the only way of taking the soul when the shadow's there. But it's like cutting it and rolling it up. It just seems just mad. Just pure madness. But why would you make something up
Mm.
like that?
Yeah, that would be a weird thing to make up because it doesn't
I
seem very
know, I know. And
believable.
he what? Yeah, and he definitely was. He was a very bloke. He wasn't
Yeah.
he didn't seem like he was a fanciful fella. He was as shocked, I think, at telling the story. I mean, the thing is with these encounters, and I'm sure anybody out there who's had these encounters, once it starts coming out your mouth and you start telling somebody else, you realize the utter absurdity of it, the utter surreality of it, it's bonkers. You hear yourself and think, I sound like a nut job. I get that all the time, when I recount things or when I'm talking to people, and you just think, this is insane. It is
Yeah.
insane, some of the things that happen to people.
Yeah. Yeah. Here's a question for you. Someone just put something in the chat. The real people with black eyes. Could black-eyed kids be a type of fairy, or vice versa? Because like you were saying earlier, the almond eyes, and it's
Yeah, good.
pure
That
solid
is a good
colour.
question. Yes. I mean, the black-eyed children thing, especially, it seems to be a very modern phenomena. But as I was saying earlier about, is there do we see things how we understand them? If fairy want to come across to you in a specific way, do they come across in a specific look?
Yeah.
It is accepting children easier for us to accept the image of a child or the image of something like you saw that was kind of woody and looked like,
Yeah.
a bit of a tree, and it's going to be more easily for us to accept them. But the question is, if that's the case, what are they trying to communicate with us if they want us to see them? If they come across and they're changing their appearance so we do accept them, why are they interacting? What is it that they're giving us? And I was chatting to you, I think, just before, and saying they don't come along for no particular reason.
No.
There is usually a feeling that comes with them. And when you talk to people who've had encounters, especially people who are not paranormally inclined, when they have encounters, it literally changes their outlook on life. It changes their
Yeah.
perception on what's real and what's not real. And they start getting into more of the esoteric. They definitely look at things like, I mean, environmental issues is something that a lot of people say that they become more aware of nature and their environment after those kind of encounters. So yeah, it's all interesting. It's all wide open though for interpretation and especially when you've had an encounter, it's mind-boggling.
Yeah, it is, because straight away you want answers, but you've got, for each question you ask, there's another 100 questions that follow and no answers. And it is literally
That's the
down the
whole
rabbit
field.
hole.
Yeah,
Or for one
definitely.
answer you think you get, it opens the door to 10 other things that you want to know about.
Yeah, yeah, and they're all just
Yeah,
possibilities.
yeah, definitely.
Yep.
Because there's
No
no
one knows.
definite, there's no definite
Yes,
answer.
definitely.
Right, got some more questions. Nicole, do you want to read the next one?
Yeah.
I'll pop it up on screen. There you go.
So this is another one from Sober Carper. Hey, Kate, have you ever considered that fae are in fact cryptids, i.e. Bigfoot? And if so, what is your opinion on this?
Yeah, definitely. We were chatting about that earlier about I had probably, and it wasn't my theory, but I had an epiphany. I started actually writing 2 articles for Haunted magazine about it. Haven't finished them yet because it's such a broad subject, but one about particularly Mothman and one about Bigfoot. And that there are theories floating around, particularly how they come in and out of reality. For instance, Bigfoot encounters, people can see them and they seem to disappear, and footprints, will go through and then just suddenly stop, which for me suggests that it's something entering into another dimension, in maybe through a portal or vibrationally going somewhere else. So I do love these new developing theories on the cryptids and them being of the Fae realm. I mean, when you think about it, if you think about the Fae realm, you can kind of imagine a Bigfoot lolloping about on their plane. It's not that far fetched, and they do range from the benevolent to the malevolent. So even things that we see
Yeah.
as more malevolent, like the Mothman, they could quite easily fit into that that rainbow, into that umbrella as well. I love it as a theory.
Yeah. So with you saying that about the realm of all these different creatures and cryptids all from the same place or similar place, what are your thoughts then on it? I'm gonna go there, Inner Earth.
Always comes back to Inner Earth.
Yeah.
Sorry, my internet just totally dropped. Then I do apologise to people. I'm
It's right.
having trouble with
I know you're all right.
with stream. Could you just repeat that last bit for me, please?
Yeah. So I was just saying, like all these different creatures and cryptids on this, like going to the same or similar realm. Do you think it could be anything to do with Inner Earth or whatever your take of Inner Earth is?
Yeah, I tell you what, you just glitched out at exactly the same point then. That's freaky. I got the very first bit and the very, very last bit. That is just bizarre. That
Inner
is just
Earth.
Strange.
bizarre. I heard the Earth a bit.
I'll keep it short. Do you think that they
Sorry,
could
you're
be
gonna have
from
to
Inner
repeat it
Earth?
again. Yeah. I mean, yeah, that's yeah, I heard that then, definitely.
Yeah, I kept it short as.
You know what? Like you say, it's that. Keep it short. Yeah. I think, yeah, is the very short answer. It's like, I mean, that we have the whole, the very sort of Irish notion that they come from under the hills. So that Inner
Yeah,
Earth, that they took themselves underground when, when I suppose man started taking over a bit more and industrialization, that they went underground. Like we have the theories about, aliens are actually intraterrestrials, not extraterrestrials, and they're actually from the
yeah,
mountains, deep in the mountains, etc. The thing is with this subject, the exciting thing is, if you can think it, you can dream it, you can put it into a theory, you can start researching that theory, and you will find tentative links. It's
yeah,
like it's not just a rabbit hole, it's a bloody it's a warren. It is a massive warren. And you go, oh
yeah,
yeah, that could relate to this and that could relate to that. So I think keeping it short, the answer to everything with fairies is yes.
yeah, yeah.
Okay, this one's not a yes or no question. So pixies, fairies, elementals,
Okay.
are they the same thing? Are they like related? Are they something completely different?
The answer to that's yes. No, it's more complicated than that. So they I think what we're looking at there is, when you have pixies, brownies, fairies, boggarts, goblins, hobgoblins, sylphs, elementals, whatever. A lot of the time that comes down to colloquialism. So pixies generally relate to the southwest of England, Devon, Cornwall, and that's the name that they give to their small people. I recently had a really good chat with a friend of mine who's a pixie expert, and we were toing and froing what the difference between this is my life, by the way. I have these conversations. What's the difference between a gnome and a pixie? And essentially, there's not a lot of difference, other than kind of where they live and what you call them. So, if you go further up north in the country, you've got more prevalent the word boggart or hobgoblin, or so they could be the same thing, but it could be a regional thing, or they might be
Yeah.
separate species that look slightly different. However, there is an outside realm of that where you get your sylphs, which are your winged creatures. You get your more earthbound creatures that are more likely to dwell in the soil or in caves and that kind of thing, and they've got a very different look to those that dwell in the forest. to those that dwell in the sea. You've got mermaids, that they kind of fit into that whole thing. So yes, they are the same thing, but no, they're not. So it's a yes/no answer from me.
No, thank you for that. No, because I've been listening to one of Barry Fitzgerald's books, The Deception of Gods and Men. I don't know if you've read it or listened to it. And I think I'm only into chapter 2.
No, I
And
haven't.
as you know, on the first chapter, it's going on. He's talking about Ireland, I think Scotland, more like the Gaelic community, and these mounds are fairy mounds, and these certain, like you were saying before, there's certain times that you can't go to them, and they've got all these specific names, and there's these fairy. I'm going to use the word overlord, but these specific fairies that kind of run everything. I can't remember any of the names off the top of my head. So, they're saying about using iron, like they're saying use iron to protect yourself, because it stops them from taking you. Or, like if they're trying to take you into their world and all that kind of stuff. How true do you believe that to be?
Again, that last bit you glitched. So I got to iron and how, and I got to how.
So how true is it about the iron, about it being protective for humans?
That is a massive question. So protection, spiritual protection is definitely one of my other subjects that I look. Oh, am I back? So the truth is, the only protection that we have is our faith in ourselves to be protected. Where the iron comes from now, it's something that I've looked into, and kind of solid theory that I came across about iron was that it's an otherworldly metal, that it's seen as an otherworldly metal not made in this world, and that's why it's seen as protective against the fae. I wore for a very long time an iron troll cross, which is Scandinavian to protect you from the fairies. I mean, there's all kinds of other things, like you turn your jumper inside out, you cast rice on the floor. There's lots of really strange things that you can do. It's a strange one, because I don't often talk to people about how to protect themselves from fairies. I talk to people about how you can work with them. So when people have experience and bad experiences with fairies, which I've come across in haunted situations, I talk to them not about trying to rid themselves of it. It's not like ghosts or demons where you can sort of exorcise them. It's about working with them, because they're there for a good reason. So yeah, the protection thing is a bit, yeah, I wouldn't go all in with the protection, but I certainly wouldn't go to those fairy places if I was told. Oh, I don't know whether I would visit fairy places if I was told not to. Just out of curiosity, to see if they did sort of whisk me away. It'd be a bit of an adventure,
I'd have to go. Yeah.
Would you?
Yeah. I'd be like, should I? Yeah, I'm going.
So I've heard that you're not supposed to accept gifts
I'm
from
gone.
fairies, because then you owe them in return. Is that accurate?
Yeah, there's that element. There's also the element of gifts from fairies are usually magical. They're usually giving them to you for some kind of purpose for themselves. So we see themes within ufology as well about eating alien food, and that alien food being either drugged or giving you false memories. And it's the same kind of theme goes with the fairies, that I mean, there are folklore tales about receiving gifts gracefully from fae. There's lots of stories about house brownies and boggarts, pixies, helping farmers with livestock or crops and that kind of thing. So yeah, there is the two sides to the coin, but again, that's because you get this arc of benevolence and malevolent, and it depends who you're accepting it off, and why. Now, the other thing about that is, if you ask a fairy why they are gifting you something, don't ever expect a truthful answer. They have to give you the truth if you ask for the truth, but they are tricksters, so they will riddle their way out of actually offering up what the truth of it is. So I would be very wary, but again, I think I'd be curious and take it.
Do you know anybody who's
Yeah.
received a fairy gift?
Oh, that's a good question. I think I've come across people who believe that they have been gifted some psychic gifts from encounters with fairies, or they've been able to develop a spiritual aspect through working with the fairies. But physical gifts, not off the top of my head. Not off the top of my head.
No. Thank you. Quick question before we go for a break. Do you think fairies could be responsible for poltergeist activity?
Yes, definitely, 100%, absolutely 100%. I would say that more often than not that it's fairy activity that causes that within a haunted house. They are also very attracted to haunted buildings. They like to be able to wreak mischief in those circumstances where people are already experiencing paranormal activity. You will often find fairies alongside, and that poltergeist activity, stacking crockery in the wrong places, opening doors, turning lights on and off, that's generally fairy behavior, and not particularly ghostly behavior. Because I often quizzed, you're a gentleman from the 1800s that is wandering around his past house. Why on earth would you spend your time turning lights on and off or stacking crockery? It's not a very in keeping thing to do with a human spirit, but with the way that fairies are, yeah, definitely.
Yeah. No, because I've always thought that it's like with poltergeist activity, it's like people see it as like a bad spirit or a bad ghost. I've never been able to see that myself. I've always thought it's got to be something else, whether it's a grey alien that's using an invisibility shield and doing stuff and you can't see them doing it. If it's fairies, whether they can be invisible or they just move that quick you don't see them. But I've never believed that poltergeist is ghostly stuff. I've always thought it's got to be something else. And then with you saying what you're talking about, it's like, oh, could it be fairies? That would make so much more sense than anything else that I've ever thought about.
Yeah, definitely. It's definitely up their street, that kind of thing. I mean, I was asked to go on Help My House is Haunted on season 2 to talk about. They were having a particular problem in a property in Devonshire, where they were having mild poltergeist activity amongst other haunting activity, and that turned out to be a pixie. That turned out to be a Devonshire pixie that was creating that kind of havoc in that house. And like I say, it's not unusual. I've
No, you went then. Right. Shall we go for a break?
Yep, sounds
then
good.
We'll carry on with more questions. Is that okay?
Yeah, I'm back.
Yeah, you're back. You're back. Right, we'll do a 3-minute break and then we'll carry on. Yeah?
Am I back?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right, see you in 3.
7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
Hello, and we are back.
Mhm.
Right, we do have a load more questions. I'm
I'm
going
hoping
to
the
ask the
internet's a
next
bit better
one.
this time.
Yeah, that's so much better, so much clearer.
Yes.
Right, so I know I mentioned about fairies being responsible for poltergeist activity. Do you think that they could also be responsible for crop circles?
I think we lost her.
Oh, good question.
Oh,
I've never really thought about the crops. Am I back?
Yeah, it's a bit glitchy, but we can hear you.
Can you
we
hear
could
me?
hear
Good. Crop circles.
Yeah.
Never really thought about the connect. Yeah, yeah. So crop circles. Never really thought about the connection to.
Hello? Ah, is it Nicole? Can you hear everything okay?
I can hear you.
Yeah, I've been having issues with my internet as well. It's another story on its own.
Yeah. I feel like there's a delay.
Yeah, we've worked out there's like a 2-second delay.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Do I go to the next question then? Hopefully, Kate,
Let's hope that's
can you still hear us?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I have a question. What about fairy rings? What are fairy rings? What's the purpose?
So fairy rings, as in usually they include mushrooms. So another one of the subjects that's close to my heart. And it's said that fairy rings occur when fairies dance in a circle on a full moon. And they appear from the dancing feet of fairies. It's also said not to enter in because you will end up being whisked away. And that probably comes back to the notion that if you dance with fairies, they can dance you to your death. So they will keep you dancing for what feels like, a few minutes, but actually it can be an eternity dancing with them, and you will time will lapse within that.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, because I've always heard that the time in our world, what is like equivalent, say 2-3 years in our time, is like 100 years in the fairy world land. Don't know what you call it.
Yeah, it can be. I mean, time's definitely very, very different within the fairy realm. I mean, one of the themes that I really like from folklore is usually the drunken husband is staggering home from a pub one night on his own and his wife, and telling his wife the story of how he encountered fairies and he was only in the fairy world for a minute. Now, I never know whether this is an excuse for a guy at a pub spending too long at the pub and he's trying to get out of the fact that he's had one too many bevies, or whether it's
Yeah.
actually true that the lone traveller on a dark path who's had a few brews is easily abductable by the fairies. So yeah, time is definitely different in fairy realm.
Thank you. Can you tell us about the red caps, the gnomes or goblins? I'm not sure what they come under. I think she's froze. Oh no, you're back.
Tell with the delay.
Yeah.
So the red caps, yeah.
Yeah.
So you were saying about red caps. You want me to tell you about red caps?
Yeah, please. I know a
So
little bit, but I don't know if
again,
it's
I mean,
enough.
the thing is when we come into specific depictions of when we come into specific depictions of the fairies, I often think that I mean the red caps are definitely more on a malevolent scale
Yeah,
than benevolent, and I often think when you think about nature and we see something that's red, we associate that um, with danger, and you know, wearing a red cap would be that signal to others that they are not there to help, basically. I mean, red caps are not my strong point at all. I am definitely more team gnome than I am sort of
right.
that side of things. But from what I gather, they're not particularly. They're more goblin type mentality
Yeah,
and personality than say your Tinkerbelly types.
yeah. Because I've heard that with the red caps, the red starts to fade, so they have to literally go on a killing spree to keep the cap red. And if it loses the color completely, then they die.
Oh.
That's the stuff. That's the
Mm.
fairy story. That's what I've heard.
Wow. Yeah.
I heard that from a few different sources.
Yeah. Well,
So,
I mean
but
that. Yeah. I think that even that if that isn't specific to them, that kind of story that they would perpetuate because if they are more malevolent, they would love that fact. They would love that fact that
yeah,
people would see them as, you know, bloodthirsty, if you like. It would definitely keep people away from them.
yeah,
All right, we
yeah,
have a lot of questions coming in.
we do. Do you want to do the next one, Nicole?
Yeah.
I'll pop it up.
Oh, I got one. Kate, do you think that each of us has a guardian fae, like a guardian angel? This is from Castle Dude.
So in the break, I was just having a flick through some of the questions, and I really like this one. Um, I can only talk from a personal perspective, and this is very personal, and I do apologise in advance if anybody um, is uncomfortable with this. So I'm not of a Christian persuasion. So for me, guardian angels are guardian fae. They can be from that realm. You know, when we're talking about astral beings and those beings that are on other planes, you do have that higher dimensional vibrational fae on that astral realm, and um, I do believe that they do. Guardians, more teachers, I would think. I think that they would come along and assist us, and yeah, I think to a certain degree look after us. I mean, maybe Andy, that your guardian fae was the one that you saw near the reservoir that night that just decided to show itself, so you didn't go splooshing into the water or being eaten by big cats. So, um,
Yeah,
I believe I do believe that we are watched. And the other aspect of it is the more it's like when you're a ghost hunter, the more you go looking for these things, the more chance you have of these things seeking you out. You know, so
yeah,
you open yourself to these worlds. And I mean, how many people do you know who are ghost hunters and go out and do ghost hunting and then are surprised when they have major activity in their own home? You know, after being a paranormal investigator, it's like, you know, you open this Pandora's box and, you know, you've got to
yeah,
expect that things are going to be watching.
yeah, yeah, definitely. But I'm touch wood. I've not had any homely activity where I'm living now, and that's what I've been here nearly 5 years, and I've been doing this at this level for 3 years.
That's good.
There's once where I woke up in the night and needed the bathroom, but I didn't want to get up because there's a big shadow figure stood at the side of the bed. I thought, I'll wait. I just fell back to sleep. And then when I woke up later,
Yeah,
it had gone.
yeah,
So it's just little things like that.
yeah.
I get more and
So,
more stuff
yeah.
happening here all the time.
Yeah,
Last
because
night
you have
I
a
was
lot of orbs, don't you?
yeah, and last night I was in the living room, and then from in here, I'm hearing like I am not going to
Oh.
check that out right now. Whatever's in the can stay in
Don't.
there.
Wow. Have you not set a camera up in there?
No, I don't think I don't want to investigate. Like I'm not trying to investigate my house because I
Yeah,
know,
you
like
got.
you said, Kate, you can stir up. It can attract more activity.
Yeah, I think sometimes it's best not knowing, especially if
Mhm.
you have to live there forever.
Yep.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Right. Next question is from Jojo, and she's asking, how many types of fairies are there?
I often answer this question as in, how many types of animals are there?
Right.
You just seriously, could we quantify how many there are? I think it's that vast. Um, and for wherever we have, a mouse or a snake or a giraffe or an elephant, it's that vast. I mean, the amount of encounters
Yeah.
that people have had, from atypical fairies or atypical gnomes or atypical pixies, there are equal amounts of people who have had not typical experiences, of seeing these creatures. I've had a couple of encounters, where they've definitely not been sort of atypical, fairy types. My
Yeah.
very first encounter, which set me off really on an adult journey into this, I described it as a gnome at the time because I didn't know what else to describe it as, but I now describe it as a sod. But it looked like a mashup of a mouse and a toad that was wearing little breeches, and I physically saw that, and I was, a couple of feet away from it, looking at it, and I had a very real brief interaction. This wasn't psychic. This wasn't, peripheral vision. This wasn't. It was very real in daylight. So
Yeah.
for as many different things as you can imagine, um, there is as many different types.
Yeah. So can you tell us about that encounter you had? Like, go into more detail about it.
Yeah, sure. Um, I didn't speak to anybody for 10 years after I'd had the encounter because it
Wow.
was so bizarre. I had gone to the Uffington White Horse with a group of friends. I was 15, 16, and we had gone there overnight to watch the sun, bit of a hippie trip, go and watch the sun
Right.
come up over the Uffington White Horse. And we were walking from the Chalk Horse. There's an ancient pathway that takes you down to a place called Wayland Smithy, which is an ancient burial site. It's absolutely stunning. Lots and lots of energy down there. And as we were walking down this path, it was a bright summer's day, summer's morning, and I kept hearing this singing. It was
Yeah.
like a cross between a hum and a whistle, and it was multiple sounds. It wasn't just one creature, and I kind of was trying to get my head round, was it an actual creature making this sound, or was it, what was it? And I was lagging behind the group of friends that I was uh, there with, just listening, and every time I stopped walking, this noise stopped, and it was almost like they were like, that, she can hear us, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So I kept trying to dive into the thicket at the bottom of the hedge to see what it was, because I could hear it scurrying, these things scurrying around. And on, I think it was my second or my third attempt, I managed to get my hands and part a clump of grass, and in between my hands was this creature, and I remember looking at it and just not computing what I was staring at all. And it was on all fours. It turned its head around, and had a very mousy looking face, turned its head around, looked at me, and it was like time suspended. And then
Yeah.
it squealed like really high pitched, and I probably swore quite loudly, and sort of took myself back, and it was
Yeah.
just it was gone into the hedge. Now I ran up and caught up with my mates and said, "I've seen this. Have you heard the singing? Have you heard this noise?" They absolutely baited me for months about it, so I
Yeah.
didn't tell anybody ever again, because I just thought, yeah, I'm going to get ridiculed, absolutely ridiculed. And like I say, it was 10 years later, and it was somebody else who was an experiencer that I said, I think I've seen something that might be a fairy. And the more people you kind of come across who've had these experiences, it's easier then to talk about what you've encountered. But it blew my mind. It absolutely blew my mind. It was solid. It was I could have picked it up in my hand. It wasn't
Wow.
ethereal. It wasn't flickering in and out of consciousness. It was absolutely solid.
Wow. Yeah, that reminds me, because Johan said me and Sober, there's a couple of others that when we go to Cannock, the last time we went, there's only me and him that went, and we did an overnight, and we was in near Slitting Mill, and we stayed in his bivvy. So it was freezing, we were both trying to sleep. He probably slept more than I did, but he'll probably argue that I slept more than him. But I'd be sat there, I lay there, and I'd wake up and I'd hear that chattering. I've just remembered, I have spoken about it before, but it's just come back to me. So I hear the chattering, then I'll hear another one chattering, but you can hear it, you can't make out what they're saying, but I know it was no more than 15, maybe 20 foot away. That's how close it was. And every time I'm like, Sober, I'm like shaking him, trying to wake him up. And the moment he woke up, it stopped. And it did this all night. But I'd listened to it for like 2-3 minutes just to make sure I wasn't still like half asleep or anything like that. And it was like every single time, as soon as you woke, I give up in the end. Oh, I'm not waking up when I hear it. There's no
I didn't
point.
want him to hear it.
No, and then I heard 3 owls, which I thought was 1 owl, but I just thought it was flying around. Then when I like homed in on it, there's one to my right, one in front of me, and then one to my left. That was strange because that was going on when the chattering was going on as well. Oh, excuse me. So if there's something to fairy and owls,
But Cannock Chase has got it's got a yeah, it could be, or there's an alien association, isn't there, with owls, and definitely with Cannock Chase, isn't there? There's a history of alien activity.
yeah, definitely. But
Yeah.
have you? So you know of Castle Ring in Cannock, just on the outskirts.
I've never been. I do want to go. I do want to go and check the place out.
Yeah, so there's a place called Castle Ring. It's an old fort and it is a really big circle. So I know people that have been and they've seen like these big shadow type dog-like creatures, but that's supposed to be some sort of fairy ring as well.
Oh.
It's like a moat. It's yeah. If you go on Google and type in Castle Ring and just look at the pictures, it'll probably take you in daylight on a good day. Probably take you 20 minutes, half an hour to walk around. And there are houses like on the outskirts of it, but the majority of it is like reeds and high grass and what have you. But yeah, if you go in the middle, that's where all the activity. But it looks like a place where as soon as you step in, it'd all just go through the roof. So it's an old.
That's definitely a place for me then.
Yeah, it's an old bronze fort. So there wasn't actually a castle. It's just like this mound.
Oh yeah.
But yeah. So, but we did that on the Sunday just before we set off back, and the weather was awful, so we didn't stay. We just had a walk around and I looked what was going on, but that was it.
Yes, it's definitely a place I want to go.
Yeah, yeah. We'll sort something out, 100%. Because we're going to make it a regular place where we're going to go. Because it's not too far. It's like it's in the middle for all of us, so it's good because we're all spread out. Got another question for you from
Yeah.
Nickname, and she's asking, Andy, is Kate familiar with the Steve Mera gnome case?
I saw this question earlier, and no, I don't know it. I mean, for me, I've been researching gnomes now. It sounds mad, doesn't it? I've been researching gnomes. I've been researching gnomes now for about 2.5 years, and that's not a case that I've come across.
Right.
No, I'm definitely going to Google that one. I'll definitely definitely look
Yeah,
it
see,
up.
well,
So
Steve
I
was on
got
there.
into got I,
Sorry, go on.
no. Go on,
Right,
go
go
on.
on. All right, I was just going to say Steve was on there a few weeks ago, and he was
Oh,
talking about these
mhm.
like gnome ninjas. These kids
Ninja
were
gnomes?
it's like these kids were doing like a karate thing at a school or like a Methodist church or something, and these ninja goblin type things just turned up and started like fighting and attacking people. There's one guy, he went out, one of the trainers or something, I can't
What?
remember the full thing. He went out the back, started feeling really sick, but he got to the point where he wanted to kill himself.
Oh my god.
So I can't remember the full story without either speaking with Steve or watching it back. But yeah, if you watch the one that I did with Steve Mera probably about 2 months ago, I've actually called it Manchester Ninja something or other. I can't
Right, I'm gonna.
remember the
Ninja gnomes.
I'm sure that's the one that Nickname's talking
Wow,
about. And that was in South
that
Manchester.
sounds like right up my street. That does. And that's that's modern. That's a fairly modern.
I think that was from possibly the 80s. Oh,
Right.
Steve,
So yeah, it's quite
Manchester
modern
Ninja
then.
Dwarfs. Yeah, Manchester Ninja Dwarfs are called it, and it was a month ago.
Okay.
I always think of mad titles. But no, I've not heard about that before. And you started talking about like, oh my God, that's like, because I'm from Manchester, it's not too far from where I'm from. It's more towards the airport way, but I could probably get there in like 20 minutes from where I used to live. Yeah, it is that one. I'm
And
just
there
going
was
through the chat now.
multiple people.
I'm sure he said, yeah, there was these kids that were doing this karate class. I'm sure it was a karate class.
Hmm.
And these dwarf, Steve's words, not mine, these dwarf ninja things turned up and just started kicking off with everyone. Like, fighting them.
And he's
All
sure they
right,
weren't
it's
just
what?
children? Funny looking children?
The thing is, Steve Mera is like, it's if he tells you so, it's true. He's not one of these people that is going to BS anything. He's the first one to sniff it out and call on it. Oh, it was at Abney Hall in Cheadle. That was it. Because a couple of people in chat still live near there. Yeah, I'm sure it was the 80s, like
That is amazing.
86. But yeah, just watch your show. I'm not trying to do it to get more views, but he goes into detail, obviously
No,
better
no,
than I
I'm
can
so going to watch that.
You got
because
2 more
he
views
went,
now.
yeah, he went round like the local community asking people about it without trying to sound like some sort of local crackhead.
Hey, did you see those
So,
ninja gnomes?
but yeah, there's
How
other
are you
bits
not?
and pieces.
How are you not going to sound like a crackhead?
Exactly.
Well, but the thing is, there's multiple people that witness this.
But when you say it, it just sounds so absurd. Like, hey, did you see these gnome ninja things kicking
Well,
these kids'
when he
butts?
was telling me, I just pictured something like Jackass or something like that. I was all like, my mind works weird, as you know, but I couldn't think of. I'm just trying to picture it, and just these little, I don't know, dog-like people that kick ass.
Yeah, I'm just picturing them all like walking up in a line and then kicking butt.
Right, so Baby with a Laser's pot, it was a karate display. They appeared from, sorry, I know it's not funny, but it's funny. They appeared from the trees and ran at people. That's pretty much it. And I'm sure they had black, like
What?
proper ninja. Sure, they had ninja gear on, like clothing.
My God.
Well, I have no idea what that was about.
That is bizarre.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Are you still in touch with this guy?
Steve, yeah? Yeah. Yeah. Steve Mayer is the one who does the Awakening
Could you?
conference.
Oh, okay. Okay.
I can give you his details. I'm sure he'll be more than happy
That's a brilliant
to.
story.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah. Well, what I'll do, you know what? Sorry, 1 second. Save you looking for it.
Yeah.
I have sent you the link on Messenger
Yeah, got
to
it. Lovely.
both of
Thank
you.
you.
I've sent it to
Yeah.
both of you.
Oh,
So
cool.
yeah, it's just one of those. It's like you said before, like when you're talking about fairies or when you have an encounter and you want to tell someone, in your head, it's the most normal, everyday goings on. Soon as you open your mouth and start saying it, like, what am I even talking about? Am I really actually stood here telling people this happened?
I feel
Do you
like
know
that
what I
all
mean?
the time. Talking about anything that I do. Hey, yeah, on the podcast we were talking about, gnomes and fairies. And people are like, what?
Yeah, yeah. But it's
Mm-hmm.
true. But it's like one. I
I
know,
know.
I know you're the
I know.
best, Kate.
I think there was
But
the thing is.
sorry, go on.
Oh, am I back?
Yeah.
No,
Yeah,
I think I glitched out then. Sorry. Am I back? Good. Good.
Okay.
yeah.
I think one
You
of
was
the
going to say
things is though,
something?
when these subjects become a normal, yeah, when these subjects become normal, as in you kind of you have a circle of friends that you discuss these with, and that it's just everyday conversation. You talk about who hasn't got that in their conversation, then it's people find it very strange, and then you realise it reflects how strange these things are.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But can I just tell you quickly? So, a while ago, it was 2015, so like 7 years ago. I was driving to work one morning. They used to start at either 3, 4 o'clock in the morning, and this happened 3 times out of 5 days. I see. I seen these things running up the trees, all different weather conditions each time, same time of day. But the thing was, they didn't see him because it was invisible. But I could see the branches and the leaves and everything moving, like something was climbing up, but there was nothing there. So I called it invisible monkeys. And that was the first interview that I did. I was listening to podcasts, so I need to tell someone. But where I used to work, that was in Bedford, in Clop Hill it was, near St Mary's Church, the backward facing church.
Oh
I
yeah.
used to work around the corner.
Mhm.
Used to work around the corner from
Mhm.
there.
Yeah.
So I told one of the guys at work, and he told everyone, and they're all looking at me like it was weird. I thought, do you know what? Just to make it even more weird, I told everyone that I believed the Earth was flat and walked off. No one, no one spoke to me for days.
Oh my god.
I
I
bet.
thought, well, they're all looking at me like that. I just thought, I need to say yes, flat. See what reaction I get then. Nothing. No one mentioned
Yeah.
anything at all. So
It's flat and it's
it,
also
it kind
hollow.
of does, as it does have its
You
advantages.
you can definitely stop conversations when you start talking about things like that, though, can't you? If if you just want to end a conversation with people that who are not kind of into that kind of thing, you just bring up.
Yeah.
Did I tell you about that time I saw a ghost and the room just goes silent? Nobody wants to know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yep. No, it is good. Yeah. It's not, yeah. If you don't want to be mithered, it's just yeah. I'll tell them that, and just people will leave me alone then. The rest of it. Right. Next question. Do you want to do this one from
Sure.
Ogety?
So Agarty wants to know, are they always good, or would you say there have been encounters of bad fae?
There are some good and there are some bad. For whatever reason, seem to have been called upon, if you like, to work with the darker side of the fae. And I don't know whether that's because of the paranormal investigation side that I do. So I predominantly come across that darker side. And when I say darker side, I don't mean sort of demonic elements. The darker side I tend to liken them to unruly children. They are. I have a friend of mine who calls them ferals, and they are very feral. And for whatever reason, they're the ones that I generally encounter in haunted properties. And like you were saying about um, people's reaction to when you talk about these things, when I started talking about fairies in the paranormal community that I'm in, the very first time I encountered the fae in a haunted property was on an event. I was hosting an event with a team, and we had a chance to walk around this building before any of the guests turned up. And I'd never been there, and I asked not to be given any information because I was trying to sort of, at that point, train myself in mediumship, which I'm rubbish at. I am a shit medium. So I was trying to tune in and going around the building, and I kept being taken upstairs, sort of on a psychic level. I kept being taken upstairs, and we got to the top level, and I was like, no, I need to go up again. I'm being told to go up again. And the guy that we were with was the local historian. He said, come on, then we'll go up in the attic. And as soon as I poked my head up in this attic, and it was massive, it was a country manor, so this attic was huge, I got this real strong psychic image of these monkey-like creatures that are very much like the fire creatures from the labyrinth, but brown, and they were swinging through the rafters and causing all kinds of havoc. And they were showing me
Ah,
the kinds of activity that they were doing within the building, like slamming doors, pulling bedclothes off people because it was a hotel.
yeah.
And I couldn't help myself. I was so shocked that I needed to tell my colleague what I was experiencing. And he was like, are you on drugs, Kate? That was how it was met. Are you on drugs? And it wasn't until I started explaining what they were telling me that they were doing that it was like, I didn't know about any of the activity that went off in any parts of the building, but I was able to relay that back, that the historian was like, yeah, that goes off there. Yes, that has happened. Um, and the more I got into it and the more I accepted that I was going to come across these creatures, um, the more information they gave me and the more I could start working with them and say, look, this isn't cool. What you're doing is frightening people. Just But yeah, for some reason, I work with the bad fae. For whatever reason that is.
Yeah,
Probably more interesting.
more fun.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
All right, another question. This one is from Fred Flintstone. Do the Fae have a sense of humor? If so, how would you describe it?
Oh yeah, they have a sense of humour. I mean, um, one of the things that are said generally about the Fae is they find humans ridiculous. They find us ridiculous. They don't understand us. They don't understand that we have this um, set of morals that we live by and these heavy value systems that we live by. And pardon my French, will often take the piss out of us, and they do like to take the mick out of us. Um, yeah, they do, and they have sometimes a warped sense of humour. Um, they do tend to like spooking people. They find that hilarious when people get freaked out and spooked. Obviously, they like dancing, they like good food and good wine and whatever else. But generally, there is, a feral, naughty child type sense of humour that they have, that they will do bizarre things. I mean, I often joke about podcasts. I know tonight is to do with my internet, but having really good internet and doing podcasts, I would often get cut off at certain points talking about the Fae. And I
Yeah,
would jokingly say that I think that that's the fairies because, Gremlins and the Machinery, I think that that's probably
yeah,
Gremlins are the Fae realm. So yeah, they have a sense of humour. And I think the more childish we are and the more open we are to a sense of fun, the more liable they are to be attracted to our energy.
Makes
yeah,
sense.
yeah. Thank you. Next question is from Baby with a Laser. Right, so he's putting K. I once experienced the homodrus, a low buzzing noise in Devon. I've always put it down to the Fae. Is this something they do? Now, he's asked this question before to other guests that have been on, but they
Um,
didn't seem to know what he was talking
mhm.
about.
Yeah, I know exactly what that is. So this is something I've experienced on about three occasions, and all in woodlands, though I must say, where I've been walking along, and the noise. The only way I can describe it is like the most mega hive of bees buzzing away.
Yeah.
Millions. It sounds like millions of bees on that low kind of drony level. And I've had it so the noise is actually passing above my head, like meters above my head. And I've been at each occasion, I've been with three separate people when that's happened. And I've said, "Did you hear that?" And they cannot hear it. And I've been stood there going, "Listen, it's so loud as it's kind of passing over." Now, this is said, folklore and from other people's experiences, that is the sound of fairies. They make that low vibrational noise. Now, I think of that as something to do with interference when things are coming in and out of portals or in and out of different dimensions, that a static occurs. There's some kind of static that occurs that creates this hum or this buzz. Like the old-fashioned TVs when you turn them off and the kind of
Mm-hmm.
screen
Yeah.
goes zoop, and you get that static and you get that kind of low level. Yeah. I do think that there is some resemblance between portal activity and that, but it could certainly be the Fae. And if it's something that one person hears and others don't, then that would suggest definitely. I mean, again, I've looked like a complete nutter, stood in a woodland, shouting at a friend, "Can you not hear that?" And they're like, "Can't hear
Yeah.
anything."
That's just reminded me. Went to Rendlesham back in the summer. I met Alex Lovelock, and we'd gone to where the UFO is, but we went to the actual UFO site. So there's a fence there now. While we stood there, we seen two orange orbs, probably about the size of tennis balls, and they just
Hmm.
like, it was like that on the floor. It was on like 2-dimensional. They weren't ball like they just flat. And we've seen it twice, so we've seen 4 in total. But as we walked further down into the forest, we both heard a humming noise. Now we was expecting to see bees or a wasp nest up in the tree, or even hornets or something. And we're looking up, and there's nothing there. Yet we both heard this humming noise, and it probably lasted, I'd say, about 30 seconds. I don't know how long. It could have been longer than that. Alex will probably know because he noticed it before I did. But there's nothing there. Didn't even think about it being fairies. We just thought, oh, what is it? And that was it. So we didn't think anything of it. And when you said that, then it was like, that's what it was. It was like just above your head, about a foot above us, and nothing there at all. Ooh.
I mean, it could have been. I mean, we were discussing about how these places have, you know, if they're attracting UFO sightings and alien sightings and whatever else, that maybe maybe that hum is the energy, earth energy or portal energy that brings in or out or attracts all these different elements. You know, it could be not specifically Fae, it could be to do with alien as well, or cryptid, or yeah.
Yeah. We just put it down that it's
And it
probably some bees somewhere. That was it.
yeah.
So, we'll need to go back there now as well.
You got a lot of places on your list.
Yeah, definitely. Next year we've got loads of places that we're going to go to. So fingers crossed, going to get there next year. Right, next question. Do you want to do this one? The one
Sure.
from Nickname?
All right. So Nickname asks, are modern Fae sightings different or changed to the classic type of sightings? If you can give an example, thank you.
Yeah, definitely. And not only have they changed from classic sightings, they have literally changed in the last 10 years. So I talked about the fairy census, Dr. Simon Young's fairy census. In the very first fairy census, I have used that as a discussion point when I go out and give conferences, to not tell people that what I'm reading out are fairy encounters, but actually look very much like hauntings or aliens or cryptid encounters. But they were in the first census, they were few and far between. They were very scattered amongst. So there wasn't that dark side and that spooky side of the fairies in that first census. In Marjorie T. Johnson's Seeing Fairies book, which is, I think her encounters were from 1920 to 1960 that she documented. I could be wrong on that. They are there's not the malevolent level to the documentation of people's experiences. In the new fairy census, having just very quickly flicked through, the very first raft that I kind of scanned through the other day were all more on the darker side. But people associating different experiences with the Fae, as opposed to there is more dark Fae interaction.
That's interesting.
Yeah. Thank you. Can I just ask, what, out of all the encounters that you've heard, whether you've documented or just people telling you in passing, what's the largest fairy or fairy type that they've told you about? Like size-wise?
Um, Bigger than a house.
Wow.
And I've had that encounter twice, where these things have been bigger than the house, and they are very, very old, very ancient, and they are malevolent, and they don't want to be reasoned with. They are particularly difficult characters, particularly difficult. I've come to two separate cases that have had those with them.
So are they more like troll-like, so to speak, or is it something completely different?
Well, so I would say that when I visualize them, so when I've got a sort of a visual on them,
Yeah.
they are very demonic looking. Um, they are a very the Lord of the Rings is the Balrog, the
Oh
thing that
yeah.
drags Gandalf down into the depths. The very fire and brimstony and smoky,
Yes.
and they are very ancient, old
Right.
beings. And both of the cases that I was looking at the time that had these things with them were both attached to disrespect of the earth, of the deep earth. So one was an archaeologist, and the archaeologist had taken an item away from a Celtic dig many years ago, and without permission um, from the dig, and without permission
Yeah.
from the land, if you like. So he'd taken an artifact, and it started then for him. His issues started then. The second person who had one with it had actually come down from her dad, who was a quarryman.
Yeah.
So they were quarry blasting when this thing rocked. You know, they were not doing it in a respectful way. They were not quarrying in a respectful way. Um, they are particularly difficult because they will go down bloodline. They will just go down through the family and just wreak havoc. So if somebody
Yeah.
feels as though the curse, there's a family
Yeah.
curse or whatever, it could be attributed, to these.
Wow.
So
See,
don't
I kind of,
fairies.
I was, sorry, I was just going to say, I was hoping you was going to say they were that big, but kind of thinking, no, you're not. You're going to say like 5 foot, maybe 6 foot, but that was it. That's,
No,
that's
and I
amazing. It
mean
really is.
there are sort of there are big, there are big ones, but they're the biggest that I've kind of come across. There are some slightly
Yeah.
smaller ones, but still big, not quite house big.
Yeah.
But they were gentler. They were a lot gentler. They were kind of, yeah. It sounds crazy, doesn't it? It sounds
I
like,
know. So
should be
would you
stuck in
then
an asylum somewhere when you start talking.
yeah. So would you say what we know as giants, are they part of the Fae? Or would you say that's something
What?
different as well?
Oh, what
Giants.
part of the face? Sorry. Yeah,
Giants?
yeah.
Yeah.
Giants and trolls, or yeah, yeah. Giants, trolls. Yeah, I think they all fit into that vibrational realm. It's for me, that realm is almost like it's not material, but it's not just vibrational. So it's not where you get your higher astral
Yes.
beings, which are purely vibrational. They have
Yes.
a link to the material realm. So yeah, definitely. I mean, I've not encountered a giant, but I have had stories told to me about people who have encountered. There was one gentleman who told me he encountered a giant in Wales, in the hills in Wales, that was as big as the hills.
Ah,
Um, me, I've not encountered one quite that big.
no.
And do you
Ooh.
think that fairies can like shapeshift and alter their appearance? I've heard that they can, mimic the appearance of humans.
Oh yeah, definitely. And animals, they are said historically to come as horses or cats or frogs, or they will shapeshift. And I think mimicking humans. I think the thing is though with fairies, they can't sustain it. They can't do it for long periods of time. Um, they can't live within that vibration to be able to sustain it for a long period of time. I mean, there's the classic story of the Selkie women, which is again part of the fairy realm. That they'll take a seal skin, and they'll become part seal and live in the water. And you know, to get a Selkie woman as a wife, fishermen would go down and steal the seal skin and hide it, so that Silkie is then attached to them. So they are in a human form. They have legs, you know, very much like a mermaid on land. They have legs and they have a human form. But they can't sustain it. They become miserable if they're trapped in that situation, and it just becomes the only thing that they want to do is get back to their original form.
Yeah. Just quickly before we do the question, sorry, this is going to sound stupid, but I know what was. Well, I don't know what was going on, but I've had really weird encounters with cats. I know I've had pet cats. I used to breed cats and all that kind of stuff. But we've been sat watching TV, and where the TV is, the window's behind it. It goes into the back garden. There was a ginger cat just sat on the windowsill, staring straight in, just staring at us. Never seen this ginger cat before, never seen it since, and it's just sat there like that. Didn't blink, didn't move, went out, round the door, looked at it, it's just sat there. It's like, right, well, we all actually got quite freaked out and closed the curtain. We never closed the curtain, and then about an hour or so later, we opened it, and it had
Just
gone.
peeping behind it, going, "Is it still there?"
And it just,
I mean,
it was like, it was well weird.
I mean, that could
And
be. I
then,
mean, cats definitely sense. They say cats can see our energy, can see it. You know, they've got one foot in this world
yeah,
and one foot in the other world. Um, so maybe cats just pick up on you, because if you are a cat person, you probably have that energy that's
yeah.
attracted to them. You know, so yeah.
Yeah. Well, there was another one, just quickly. Joe's just put it in the chat. I was going to say this. There was another one. We was out doing an investigation at a local cemetery, like a little village church. There's a bit of a wall with a drop, so we sat there and we was watching these. We did a bit of a sky watch while we was there. So we were watching these lights in the sky. Anyway, we walked back round and we heard something in the bushes. I put it down. It's either a hedgehog or a fox. I wasn't putting my hand in to find out, but I don't think it was anything paranormal. But we've gone round back to the front of this church, and there's like a bit of, it's not a grave, but there's like a bit of a dip in the floor where it's just like worn away, and it's all like sandy dirt, dust. And there's this cat, right? It was walking and looking, and it went and it lay in this hole and just started not being a cat. It was just like spinning around and just being really, really weird. But while it's doing this, seems like it
How
was staring at
bizarre.
us. It was proper, like, kept looking to see if we was watching what it was doing. That's what it felt like. So
Ooh, maybe
Weird.
you've got a skinwalker going off there.
yeah, and oh, I'll just tell you quickly as well. There's another one. It's a ruined church. They still use it for burials. We go there quite a lot. It's one of the most haunted places in Northampton. And the first time that we went, there's a little baby rabbit, and it let me pick it up, didn't run off, and put it back down, picked it up again to see if it was a fluke or whatever. And it started walking off, but same thing, it turned around looking over its shoulder like, come on, follow me. And it did this for quite, and I've got it on video. It was like I said, one of the first investigations I did. And I was actually kind of like, started following this rabbit, and I thought, no, because I will end up down the rabbit hole and I'll never get back out.
Literally down the rabbit hole.
Yeah. And then I turn around, because there's two other people with me, Richard and Mark, and I turn around to talk to them, turned back to where this rabbit would have been, gone. It could have gone in the grass, but I think I would have heard it or seen it. But as quick as it appeared, it disappeared again. Well, it did that. That was like played on my
Crazy.
mind for quite a bit. So yeah.
Maybe you should start tuning into your kind of psychic animal sense and see if you can start reading their minds. You could turn out to be a Dr. Dolittle.
Yeah.
True.
See with animals, it's like went to Missy's sister's on Boxing Day. Been there before, but they've got a dog. They've got 3 chihuahuas, and there's one of them. it'll walk across the room and bark at you. It'll look at people and bark at him directly, like, what are you doing here? And first time when they got it, I sat down on the sofa and it come and jumped and sat on my leg, sat on my knee. It would bark at other people walking past, but let me stroke it, and they're like, that has never ever done that before. Not to somebody it's not known. Only people it's known for years, not a complete stranger. And that was odd. That was very odd.
There you go.
Yeah, very
You
cool.
miss, you're missing your true vocation.
Yeah, I'll have to go and live in a zoo or something, won't I? Find out what's going on.
You can just have guests bring animals on and you can talk to them.
Yeah, could try that.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, why not? It's something different, isn't it?
Yeah.
Right, are we all right for a couple more questions? Is that okay?
Yeah.
Right, so this one is from Castle Dude, and he is asking, Fae can enter our realm freely, but can we enter their realm?
Oh, I mean, historically, folklore tells us we can. Tells us we can stumble across it by chance, or we can step into a fairy ring, or we can go under a fairy mound. And there's certain times of the year and certain times of the day when this can happen. So we've got the between times, so dusk and dawn, midsummer, winter solstice. We've got Samhain and Beltane, which are said to be times when we can enter into their realm. However, I think that they don't really need our permission to come into our realm, whereas we would need their permission to go into theirs. And I think that that's down to, in a nutshell, they are a lighter vibrational frequency than we are. So we are human, we are a dense vibrational frequency, and we're a bit more sluggish when it comes to being able to shift energetically, about the world. So it's kind of another yes and no. They can enter freely into ours. Can we enter freely into theirs? Yeah, sometimes, but I think we are more problematic. I think we're a bit too lumbery to be able to just pass in. And they probably know all the
Yeah,
places where they can come into this realm. And we don't wander around and talk about portals and vibration and that on a regular enough basis to find out where these places are where you can just pass through.
yeah,
Sure.
Great question though.
yeah. Thank you. Next one, do you want to do this one? So this is from Sober.
Okay.
I'm
So,
guessing this is what we're going to be doing on our next
mhm.
adventure.
So
Put it
if we
that
go
way.
out looking for Fae type activity, what would you recommend to lure them or better chances of a response?
Yeah, okay. So one of the things that I do recommend to people is, if you don't want Fae activity, don't build a shrine to Fae. So the amount of people that I speak to who say, "Oh yeah, I've got a fairy altar in my house, or I've got a fairy garden out in the garden." What you seek will seek you. So basically, if you go out there with the intention of finding them, um, also you have to. Whereas when you're working with spirits of the dead, and on that level, you don't meditation isn't really. You can meditate, you can go into that meditative state, but
Yeah,
a lot of the encounters that are documented about fairies people are in um, uh, a calmer state or a slightly altered state of consciousness. My co-host talks about this all the time, and it is quite
yeah,
true. So your thoughts are somewhere else. You're not quite concentrating on the material world around you, and it's just that shift in perception. And a lot of encounters that I've come across have occurred when people have been in a slightly meditative state. So sat quietly, just enjoying a view, enjoying being out and about. I mean, there's historically you can leave fairies gifts. You can leave them milk, honey, and bread. I sometimes take out nuts and raisins to places where I think they may be. Um, and it's just going into it with an open mind, really. And the more you open up to it, like I say, what you seek will seek you out too.
yeah. Thank you.
Or no, I should have completely fibbed to you and said you've got to go out wearing a tutu and a pair of wings and have a wand, and then they'll
Yeah,
come and visit you.
yeah. There you go. So, but you can dress like that. I'll just take the photos.
That'd be good.
Yeah. Right. Right. Still got a couple more. Oh, got two more. Is that okay? Because we're just at the 2 hour mark. So
Yeah, of
this
course.
one is from Wild James, and he's asking, can fairies be responsible for people's mental health?
Wow, yeah, that's a tricky one, isn't it? It's like which came first, the chicken or the egg?
Yeah.
Now, it is a really tricky one to answer, and be responsible for my answer. So I'll talk about it historically in folklore about the fairies driving people mad.
Yeah.
That has, there are tales about that. So in that context, yes. I think for anybody who's had any kind of paranormal encounter, you do question your sanity and you do question your own mental health, about whether it's something that is insane, basically, because it does
Yeah.
sound insane. Do they affect that? Can they affect that? I think that there is a capability, like with all vibrational beings, there is a capability of being able to affect us for good or for ill. However, on a responsible level, I would say that if people do feel as though they are having issues, I think having a very earthly way forward is the first way forward. So I would never
Yeah.
encourage anybody to take on a tact of, yeah, the fairies are causing this, I need to deal with the fairies. I would say you need to go and see a doctor, get yourself well and healthy, and then
Yeah.
revisit whether it's something that's coming externally. But yeah, it's a very complex question, though, very, very complex. But yeah, and it's a very interesting one.
Yeah. Thank you. And the last question is from Fred. Fred, I can't speak anymore. I'll give up. Fred Flintstone. Do you want to read it out, Nicole? Because I'm just going to mess it up.
Kate, going to haunted places, do you worry about the hitchhiker effect?
I do. I'm very aware of it. So I'm assuming that you're talking in terms of things sort of jumping energetically with me back home, etc. Have had uh, a few encounters, and like you, this is the first. Recently moved into this property. This is the first property that I've moved into for many, many years where there is no sense of anything here. I
Yeah.
had one really incredible experience where I picked up what I believe was an egregore from a witch. This
Oh.
sounds insane as well. So, as an events company, we have lots of involvement with the Hellfire Caves. And there was reportedly one of the Dashwood family early on, one of the women from the Dashwood family who owned the estate, was into her craft, shall we say. And I had a hitchhiker that was something that she had brought forward in her time. She's long dead, but she'd brought this thing forward. And it kind of travelled with me for a while, and it would come through on spirit board even when I wasn't on spirit board. So other people would be working on the Ouija board, and this thing had come through,
Yeah.
and I knew its name or what name it had given me, and it come through on the board and give so that. But this thing it was cheeky. It was well cheeky. I was just dropping off to sleep one night, and from the end of the bed, and this is very much in a nutshell of the things it would do, I heard this really hissy type laugh from the bottom of my bed that just went hee 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 hee. And I was like, what is that? And it did it 3 times, and I was sat up in bed wide awake. But it didn't freak me out like it should have freaked me out. I was kind of almost giggling with it because it was just so
Yeah.
surreal. But that was one of the more surreal ones. I have had, you know, energies that have come with me and snapped back to properties. Does it worry me? We encounter these things all the time, whether we know it or not. You know, whether you go to haunted
Yeah.
properties or not, we have all these energies around us all the time. We are all inclined to pick them up briefly or for longer periods of time. So it's the rich tapestry of life.
Yeah. Well, thank you for that. Totally get that as well.
Mm-hmm.
As people used to say to me about the hitchhiker effect, it's like you said, if it's around us constantly, if it sees you and thinks, oh, I'm going to latch on to them,
Yeah.
they're going to do it anyway, even if you're shopping in Tesco or go and make yourself a coffee. It doesn't matter where you are, what you're doing.
Hmm.
So, just want to, I suppose people think you've more chance of it happening if you're going out looking for it. I think it's more that side to it than anything else.
Yeah,
Yeah.
That's
there.
my opinion, anyway.
I think yeah, I think that's true, and I think you become more aware of it. So things that you would probably write off as periphery vision, if it's not your thing to think about that kind of thing. So, you know, you get something out the corner of your eye. As a paranormal investigator, you're more
Yeah,
astute and think, what was that? And if you're not, you know, if you're not into this kind of thing, you would just brush it off, you know, as, oh, it was
yeah,
nothing.
yeah,
Um, so I think we are hyper aware of not normal activity when you're into this. You become hyper aware.
yeah, definitely. Yeah. Just a quick one from Jason. It's not a question, but he's just put, "Hi all,
Yep.
I'm over an hour behind." Andy, I just wanted to say I have heard of encounters with small beings that look like stick insects. It was on Scary Fairy Godmother podcast. No idea what episode, unfortunately. So there we go. I'm not going mad.
Well, not
Oh, I
because
Yeah,
it's
might
a
be,
big bug
that is a
anyway.
good podcast.
yeah, I've heard of that one, but I just don't
Yeah.
get a chance to listen to him anymore. Oh, so that is it. We're done. So thank you everyone in the chat for your questions. Thank you, Kate, for coming on and answering them and having a good laugh about it as well. It's been
Thank
really,
you.
really good. I've really enjoyed it. Thank you, Nicole, for coming on as well. I'd thank Tommy, but so Tommy's the other guy who normally comes on and co-hosts on a Friday, but he's got family over today and it's his daughter's birthday, so I'll let him off. But it's his last one, so that's it. Just a quick update before we go. This one and the one that's going out on Saturday are going to be the last two that are going to be going on as a podcast. After that, I'm not doing the podcast anymore. So it's still going to go out on YouTube, but what I normally do is download the audio and re-upload it as a podcast on Spotify and Apple and all that. But for what it's costing me to do that, I've worked out what it's costing me over a year. So I'm going to use that money to put into YouTube and give it a better deal on YouTube, if you know what I mean. So unfortunately, anyone who is listening on podcast, you're going to get this one and then the one that's pre-recorded on New Year's Eve that I did with Chris Evers the other night. That's going out at 4 o'clock on the 31st, 4 p.m. UK time. That's 11 a.m. EST. And they're going to be the last two to go out, as I said, on podcast. But we're going to carry on YouTube from then on. So that was it. Sorry, I just had to get that in quickly because I knew I would forget. Excuse me. So yeah, massive thank you for coming on. It's been really good. I've
Yeah.
learned so much tonight.
Yep, it was a lot of good information.
I've loved it. I've really enjoyed it. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. Well, hopefully you'll come back on and yeah, we'll sort out the Canuck thing as well. If you're up for it, yeah. Because there's normally a few of us that go. It's just at the times that we were going,
Yeah.
certain people couldn't make it. But we had to go at that point because that was the last time I was going to be able to go this year. So it's like, well, I've got to do it now, or it's not going to be till like Easter time. So yeah, so that was why it was just me and Sober. But no, it was good. It was really good.
Yes.
Is there anything you want to say or add before we go?
Did we lose her?
Have I frozen out there?
Oh, you're back.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. I said, is there anything you want to
Oh,
say
back. Good.
or add? Is there anything you want to say or add before we finish off?
Yeah, if that's okay, a couple of things. Be lovely to see people over on my YouTube channel, which is Kate HareGirl Ray, Hair in the Hawthorn. Host that with Dr. Neil Rushton. We look at all kinds of different things, but predominantly fairy. So if you want more information, you can pop over there. If you want to log any encounters, go to the Fairiest or Fairy Census. Just Google Fairy Census or Dr. Simon Young, and you can log your encounters. They are super useful for us as researchers to get people's encounters. Quick shout out to the Haunted magazine, which is a magazine that I write for regularly. Great read, great guys at the Haunted magazine. So if you haven't come across that, then it's definitely a fast growing international paranormal magazine now, and it's well worth its money. Let me tell you, these things, it's a chunky magazine. So, and I think that's
Yeah.
about it.
Excellent. Thank you again. So I've put all your links in the show notes anyway, so
Thank you.
people can go in the description. They can click on that, and it'll take it to your web. Is it your website or your YouTube channel? Do you have? Is it your website?
YouTube. No, just
Oh,
YouTube.
YouTube. Oh, yeah, it's YouTube. Yeah, because the next one was copy and pasting it. Had a quick look. So yeah, right. That's it, folks. So on the 31st, so on Sunday at 4 p.m. UK time. The interview that I was doing with Chris Evers, we finally done it after taking nearly 2 months to actually meet up and record it. That's going out as a premiere. Me and Chris will be in the chat, so if you've got any questions, you can put them in there. But please do remember it is pre-recorded, and I've wrote on it pre-recorded, so you've no excuse to think that it's actually live. So other than that, see you then. If not, have a great new year, and we'll see you next Wednesday. So take care, everyone, and goodbye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.